This is going to be an attempt to explain how I designed some of the sweaters that I made. I'm going to talk about the sweater I'm about to make a little bit, and then I'll show some samples of stuff that I've already made that you guys have seen, and how I think through the process. A lot of my projects start because I'm short on yarn to make something, and so I end up trying to be creative about how to use that. And actually redirect. I'm going to talk about that first, about the design process. The sweater that I made back during the winter, that was made out of, see, I used big swatches. Here's a big swatch from that sweater. That'll help you remember the sweater. It had a real nice look to it. It had a nice drape to it. You can see the design I used. There's a rib, but then there's a bar. And here's the original plan for that sweater, based on the swatch, which tells me my gauge and how many stitches. And this one was 135 stitches across the front, based on that swatch, and all my measurements. And this sweater, I ended up using several different yarns because I didn't have enough of any one yarn to make the sweater. And so I worked the design into a fade, and I think I tagged that as hashtag Deb's Fade to Jade. Anyway, so there's that. And then there was the rainbow stripe sweater that everybody seemed to enjoy my making this last winter. And that started when I bought the rainbow yarn that changed color, but I didn't have enough to make a sweater. So I had found a black to fill in, and used an inspiration from this sweater from Vogue. I didn't make that actual sweater, but I used the design idea. And here's all the math, all the different math that I worked out based on the gauge. That's what these swatches are always for, is for the gauge. I'll talk more about that with this current sweater project. So those are two sweaters that I designed that were based on a lack of yarn. But the current sweater that I want to make is actually a replica of the old Baja pullovers from the 60s. And I shared some pictures of those on Facebook. And they're so cute. They remind me of surfers and California girls, Beach Boys and all that stuff. These guys. Anyway, what prompted that all started with this yarn. I had made a poncho. Some of you may remember it. I called it the Sunset Swancho because it was a sweater poncho. And this was the yarn I used. This is from Valley Yarns. It's called Goshen. It's a cotton silk modal blend. And it's very heavy when it's worked up in multiple colors. The poncho has stretched. I'm going to have to try to shrink it. But this sample I did before I did the graphs for that poncho. So I tried out all my different stitches, and I could see how many stitches in each inch, so I could get the size right. So I really liked this yarn and the colors, this sunset colors. And I got looking at some of the yarn I had left over, and I ended up crocheting this swatch out of the purple, and purple doesn't show up there. You can see it with the light there. The purple and brick. I got my phone on my stand. It makes a perfect little stand. Anyway, so there's the colors, and I got thinking about it. Just made me remember those Baja shirts. There was something about the stripes. So these Baja shirts. So I've decided that I'm going to make a crocheted version of that Baja shirt. So I had already done this swatch. I tried the red in there. That was a no. That was a hard no. Didn't want the red in there. I also have the yarn to make a second Baja shirt with this combination of grays and turquoise. This stuff's got a great hand to it. And I've worked with, this was a test swatch of the same yarn knitted instead of crocheted. And this has been through the washing machine and the dryer twice. This stuff washes like a champ. So that's one of the reasons I want to make this like sweatshirty. Here's another piece of it. When I was trying out the different properties. Oh, and then this yellow one here, this one's been through the wash a couple times also. So anyway, so now, last night before, here's my 6-inch swatch. Of course, it's going to go this way because the stripes go up and down on the poncho. And so this is how I will design this sweater. First of all, I have a knowledge of the shape I want. I have a favorite shape. It's kind of a big square. Because I know the basic shape I like, I can lay that out, and I know what those measurements are. So now, this swatch is 20 rows by 25 stitches. So I have a knowledge of how many stitches it takes to make so many inches. That's the thing I need to know, because I'm going to want to make this 26 inches wide based on this gauge. I will figure out the rows. I'm going to wash this, and the finished measurement after it washes is what I'm going for. But you have to make it to the size before it shrank, so that when you wash it, it shrinks to the right size. So we'll be doing a little bit of that. This video is getting really long. So the next thing I have to do now is figure out the stripe pattern. And I have all these different balls of yarn. Let's see, I don't want to light that too much. That looks cool. Your spotlight, we've got 2 different purples, it's like a black cherry color, and then the 2 different terracottas. And what I will do is proportionately figure out a stripe pattern that uses the colors. I have 7 plum, 6 in the black cherry, 3 of the light bisque, and 10 of the terracotta. So those are the colors. I actually have 1 more. This stripe here is only 3. I'm going to do that black cherry in between the terracotta and the purple. So what I'm going to need to do is figure out the proportions. And so maybe it's obvious with the bisque there's only 3 balls of that, so I'd probably only use that for a single row in between the larger pattern groups. That's kind of a given. And I have the most of the terracotta, so I know that my terracotta stripes are going to be the fattest. But when I add the 2 plums together, I actually have 13 balls of the purple. So ultimately, with the black cherry and then the purple stripe will actually appear wider because those 2 colors blend pretty good. So the next thing I have to do is wash my swatch, and then I have to figure out I will figure out how many rows and how many stitches. And I think I may work this piece entirely flat with no shoulder seam, because I'm going up and down. I'm going to crochet. I may crochet the whole length from up to the shoulder and back down the other side, because I'm going to be going back and forth this way with the crochet. And then crochet so great, you can just add the sleeves on either side after the body is done. And then we've got to do the horizontal pocket, because I all have the stripe horizontal on the pocket and the hood. So I'll be starting out with this length side here once I figure out the pattern. Well, this is a freaking movie, this video. And I hope you found it interesting. It's a rainy, crappy day. I'm going to go down and vacuum up water in the basement again. I'll be babysitting that until the storm is gone. Have a good one.